Hi, thanks. Welcome to this our video again. My name is Gidudu Silva, and I lead or initiate or coordinate the Natural and Sustainable Generations Movement or Initiative Uganda. It can be the entire globe, as we've always communicated in our previous videos and even in this video. So we've been talking about habitat conservation. We are still introducing our goal number 2, habitat conservation. And we are saying habitat conservation is so vital in maintaining biodiversity, which is flora and fauna, and is an essential part of global food security, as quoted by Pieth in 1994. According to Pieth and Moran in 1994, the environmental values of habitat conservation in their classification includes as follows. Now, Pierce and Moran classify the values of habitat conservation in this format. Now, in their first classification, they say direct extractive uses. These involve uses such as timber from forests, selective timber cutting, food from plants and animals. Those are direct extractive uses according to Moran and Pierce, how they classified the values or importance of habitat conservation. That is the first classification. Now the second is the indirect uses. The indirect uses include ecosystem services such as flood control, pest control, erosion protection, and control of mass movements. Mass movements, we can talk about landslides, mudslides, all movements that involve the soil and water. Landslides, mudslides, mudslides, like that. The other classification, according to Pierce, is optional uses or uses. Now, this includes future possibilities that may currently be unknown, but potentially. Future possibilities that may be currently unknown, but potentially. Use of plants, for example, the use of plants in chemistry or medicine and biological banks. Those are the optional uses. Now, the non-use values include the bequest value, according to Moran and Pierre. The non-use values includes the bequest value, which is the benefit of one individual who knows that others may benefit from it in the nearby future. For example, activists, conservationists, and environmentalists. The other is the passive use value. This is simply the sympathy for the natural environment, enjoyment of the mere existence of a particular species, thus for natural pleasure. This is according to Moran and Pierce, how they classify the values of habitat conservation in the environment. They say the passive use value refers to simply the sympathy for the natural environment or enjoyment of the mere existence of a particular species, thus for natural pleasure, care, love, which in most cases triggers tourism activities. They further say, determining the size, the type, and location of the habitat to conserve requires a complex area of conservation biology. And although difficult to measure and predict, the conservation value of a habitat is often a reflection of their quality. For example, on species abundance and species diversity. We are still talking about the research that I made about habitat conservation on the introduction part. The conservation value of a habitat is often a reflection of the quality, for example, of species abundance and species diversity, endangerment of encompassing systems, ecosystems, and spatial distribution of that habitats. That is according to Moran and Pierce in 1994. Now, Uganda, my country of origin. Uganda is one of the most richest countries in Africa in terms of biodiversity conservation. It ranks second richest for mammals and 13th in the entire world in terms of biodiversity mammals. Uganda, which is my country of origin, is one of the most richest countries in Africa in terms of biodiversity conservation, ranking second richest for mammals and 13th in the entire world. In terms of mammals, Uganda, we are very rich in conserving them. Continuing. Uganda is one of the most richest countries in Africa in terms of biodiversity conservation, ranking second richest for mammals and 13th in the entire world in terms of biodiversity conservation. The country also ranks second for bird species and 7th for higher plants, and this is because of several major biomes. Several major biomes meet here, each with their associated flora and fauna. Flora means the plants, and fauna are the animal species. This is according to the Wildlife Conservation Society between 2007 and 2021. Uganda is also a home for several species whose global range is mostly confined to Uganda itself. For example, the mountain gorillas at Bwindi, Mugahinga, Rothschild giraffe, the Uganda manga bay, and Nahans francolin, according to Subuga in 2020. Uganda is also a home for several species whose global range is mostly confined to Uganda itself. For example, the mountain gorillas at the Bwindi impenetrable or the Bwindi Mugahinga forest, the Rothschild giraffe, the Uganda manga bay, and Nohan's francolin, according to Subuga in 2020. Several wetland areas are also protected under the Ugandan law and managed by the Wetlands Division of the Ministry of Water and Environment of Uganda, according to the UCF. The ministry, in collaboration with other relevant private actors such as the Wildlife Conservation Society, are jointly focused on protecting and developing the Great Virunga landscape, Maxon-Semlika landscape, and the Kidepo landscape. Furthermore, focus is on several large mammals and bird species because these are among the few species under the threat of extinction. Intro about habitats conservation in our country, Uganda. Threatened species with low population sizes and all are shrinking in number, such as the bat species, according to the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, in 2020. So that's a brief intro about habitats conservation in my country and the entire globe. In our next video, we are going to talk about our target. Number one, the one we are going to look at today. We are going to look at only one target, and that is the first one. So in our next video, we are going to talk about, I wish you